Okay, hello everyone. We are continuing our series of design reviews for the upcoming version 13.3 of Wolfram Language. And this is a continuation of our review about sound and vision features. And I think we'd already covered quite a bit of this. We're going to come back to some of that. Where should I start? Yeah.
Speech computation in that audio section you're on.
Okay. Okay, do I care about this? I mean, have we had requests for these Google services?
It's not just Google, it's Google and other ones, but the quality of synthesis and recognition is higher compared to what we're using now. And eventually we can see having our better version of it as well. But for the time being, allowing people to connect to those services seems reasonable.
Okay. But aren't we getting our own networks for these things?
It has just been approved by legal.
Okay. Fine. So then we'll get our own network, right? You're in process to produce that, yes?
Well, yes, it has been approved, is in the pipeline, and we'll have to test it once it is imported. But the plan is that, and we'll see if it works out. No reason to suspect that it won't, but
okay.
I guess it might be nice to discuss. Do we want to have these services now and continue supporting them? There is, I think, 4 that we have identified and have some connection to.
If we have them, then why don't we have them? I mean,
Okay.
If we've already built them, it's okay. I mean, we can always tell people, nobody's going to be upset if we have our own built-in service that works just fine. And we say, well, you don't now have to do this authentication. Nobody's going to be upset about that.
Okay.
Okay, these are multilingual, yes?
Yes.
Depends on the service. Google, I think, is.
Okay. 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 Would we finally have SVG import? I thought we finally had that a few years ago.
We had that last version, import as image, as a raster image we had. Now we're importing it in this version as vector graphics. There are some limitations. Part of it depends on front end. It's not huge, though. A lot of SVGs come in just fine.
Okay. I mean, years ago, we had issues with this dealing with flag images. Johan's team was working on that. What's that? Remember that?
I remember that now that you mentioned.
Why don't you point out to that team that we now have SVG vector import and see if they can, I don't know, maybe they'll get more flags that way.
Okay, will do.
Okay. What is ranged data?
That's when a column can have a range of values. It's a new element that is being added. Now we consider anything out of that range that can be specified as an option out of range.
I don't understand. So you mean it can only go from 1 to 1,000 or something?
Right. And then clip beyond that or with some option allow different behaviors.
Why do we want this?
It's a part of Excel specification, and we upgraded our Excel import in the previous versions. This is one small leftover from that update.
Okay. Question. I mean, the whole issue of recognizing what part of the spreadsheet actually contains meaningful data. How are we doing on that?
Well, I haven't really started on that. We see it as a collaboration between import, export, and machine learning to understand what part is data and then move on with upgrade to semantic import. Neither of the 2 teams had the time to work on that, but I think it's a completely reasonable thing to tackle soonish.
Okay. Talking of sound, whatever has happened to the music stuff?
Also no bandwidth for that. But we really love it as much as you do. It's just a priority. Do we continue on video? Video has been what we had momentum on, and we have stuck on that for the past few releases.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think, this chess stuff I'm not a big fan of.
It wasn't a whole time sync.
The the disjoint resources. You can't,
Right.
just because someone is good at chess doesn't mean they're good at music.
Yes, Roger. What is this? I don't know. Okay, you want to demo this here?
You can run chess player. More of
Sure.
those other subsections, I would say, are brainstorming. The 4 symbols that Roger listed on the top are the 4 that we are suggesting go into 13.3.
Oh, God. Okay, where do I start here?
Just the top. You really shouldn't necessarily look at any of those subsections unless we want to think
Well, I want
what's
to
in
see
the
this
future.
run. I want to see what it does.
Chess player, bracket, and start playing.
Go to the source page if you want to sort of see, and then you can
Oh,
pick an
this is
example and edit
crazy.
from there.
I mean, this is like, I mean, I understand that chess is a thing, but it just seems, what are we going to do? Play Dungeons and Dragons next?
Doom is the plan, clearly.
Yeah, I think Dungeons and Dragons was next in our big plan.
This is weird. This is weird. Why can't I?
You're white. You can play
white starts always. That's one of the rules in chess.
You should drag. And do something weird. Don't necessarily play well. I think this is a rather good tool. Now you see evaluation down there. You can undo if you don't like that move of yours.
It's magnificent, but these are not. I mean, I just don't understand the priority of this.
As I said, yeah, go ahead, Roger.
It's not been a priority. This is completely passion project outside, kind of like Cellular Automata or something. It's a passion project.
Wow.
A lot of it was also developed before they became projects with us.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is outside of, it hasn't been a priority, Stephen. Really hasn't.
Who did it?
Rafa was the one who started importing the chess formats in the previous, or I have to say he had the development for importing chess formats. And then as soon as we committed, Jay from the docs team said, I have a chess player. And then since then we have, most of what Jay has done is cleaning up and prettifying this player that you see.
How does this work in the cloud?
I haven't tested it. I don't know.
You got to do that. You got to do that.
Yeah, I'll test
You
it.
got to do that. I mean, I don't know if it will work.
Yeah. My guess is that it won't work to begin with, but it wouldn't be too hard to make it work because it's just, well, I don't know actually. I'll test.
How good is the engine?
If there's anything client server that's particularly worrisome, I don't see any reason why it would fail over.
Okay.
The integrated chess engine, I think, is okay, but there's also a plugin, so you can, if you have Stockfish, which is the premier chess engine, you can run against Stockfish.
And that's something that you can download to run on your machine?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we can't or shouldn't include it for some reason?
I think
we would have to license it.
Yeah.
And
okay, it's not worth the trouble. But there's some standard interface to the engine.
Yes, that's that UCI. There is a universal chess interface. Anything that complies with that, we can work with.
Well, okay, how do I get something that is computable out of this?
Now, under the new game, there is next to the new game in your interface, there is a drop down. Now you can save your game. Currently we save to a PGN, but I guess we can save to a
what I
chess.
care about is some kind of symbolic representation of the game where you can actually do some computation as opposed to just, oh, I'm just playing a game just for fun, which
Right.
is not what we do. I mean,
That's where chess game and chessboard objects come into play. Those are the other two objects we have. There are ref pages for all four of these that you're seeing. And then I was thinking it would be nice to say, I pick the next 10 moves from an engine, and then I can add one of those moves to my current chessboard or chess game and get a new board or a
let's
game.
say I want to get the game graph from somewhere.
Right.
How would I do that? I mean,
currently all the moves, what gets stored in a game is a sequence of moves.
I know.
And we can visualize that.
What's this?
That's because probably we evaluated it earlier.
Well, but why that can't generate a message?
Right. No, for sure. I'll look into that. It might be just an older GUI, but I'll look into it.
Oh boy. What the hell? No, we can't do that.
That's not implemented yet. That's what I said. The chessboard recognized we have an implementation of it, but chessboard plus a move, that's something that is up for discussion. I don't think it's crazy. Why do you think it's crazy?
Because I don't know what else is plus. If we're going to do plus like that, doing plus with strings would make a lot more sense. That's a lot more useful. Don't do this. Just don't do this.
Sure, fine.
I mean, we could consider plus with strings. I don't know how much stuff we break by doing that. We probably break a ton of stuff by doing that, by having that be append.
You mean string join?
Yeah, string join. Okay.
Oh, but I guess append a chess game, comma, and move could be one thing we could do. But in general, I was thinking.
What is in the chess game? What's in the?
You can open the ref pages. Chess game is basically a sequence of moves and a bunch of metadata.
Why isn't it a list of moves?
Just a plain list of moves in that first argument?
Yeah, I would think so. Or one of the keys could just be moves, and then it's a list of moves.
That's what it is.
But
Look
what
at
is
that.
the symbolic representation of a move?
There are different notations. There is the standard notation.
I know. I'm asking, a notation that says, F1 C4 or something is not our kind of computable representation. It's like the relationship. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, I mean, it's like a regex, some compressed regex type form, as opposed to something which is actually usable. I mean, like, I want to know, let me draw the trajectory of every pawn. Okay, how do I do that? See what I'm asking? I mean, without writing, without taking apart strings and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. That's not something we had thought about or is in this proposal, but I do see that
I know,
useful.
but I mean, the thing is, this is just like, it's like the Emacs editor having a game of life built into it. It's just one of these things that's kind of weird. It'd be one thing if this was actually set up to be, I mean, it's kind of like, the whole sort of computable games thing. I mean, you know, I wrote this whole piece about game graphs and so on, right? Why don't we have tic-tac-toe in the thing as well? Why don't we have hangman? Why don't we have, Monopoly? Why don't we have I don't know what. I mean, this is much more, I mean, I don't know, this is just computable game stuff, in this case with tic-tac-toe. Okay. I mean, there's somebody, some student at the summer school who did this comparable things with chess.
Right.
But I mean, that's not
Which
what
is
we're
a
getting from here.
mini version of chess. I think chess as it is.
Well, it was
And
end games. It was end games.
Right.
I don't know what to think of this. I mean, honestly, I mean, as WFR like functionality, A-OK. As built-in stuff, it's just kind of weird.
Could as well be a Packlet repository, I guess, at this point, if you really don't want it built in.
Yeah.
I kind of think that's a better place for it right now. I mean, I feel like if we're going to build it in, it's kind of like got to be one of, like in Wolfram Alpha, right? We have a bunch of information about all kinds of games. Did you even know that?
I knew that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like meta information, not right.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, let's say I want to take a chess game. What's this chess tools backtick? What the hell is that about?
That's just because we put it in the context until design review happens. We'll promote it to system once approved.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you some questions here. So let's say we do this. Okay, I import this game. Oh, what's that?
That's bad. It worked yesterday.
Well, I don't know whether I have. Maybe I don't have the most recent version.
Let me quickly check in today's while you're checking your version is.
No, my version is April 5th.
Okay, I'm today's and it works.
All right, well, maybe this thing here will work. I don't know. Let's take a look. Maybe it works. Okay. All right. So now I want to get a picture of the sequence of boards from this. How do I do it? And what the hell is this? Date? Why is that not in our standard date format? What is this?
That's a good point. Yeah, I actually. Yeah, that should be common.
And why are these not entity names? Why are those not entities?
They will become entities as soon as you ask for that specific. If you ask for game or assign that to a variable or just say %, then property game. Metadata. Then we do the interpretation at that point. We didn't make them entities in the summary box because it's slow to interpret them.
Why is it slow to interpret them? Not after they've been made into entities. If there's some slowness, it should be fixed.
But then you're saying at the time we import as chess game, which a PGN file could be hundreds of chess games, we should interpret every name.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. It seems reasonable to me, but
we thought this is kind of an okay compromise. We show whatever is stored exactly as is in the file.
I think it's a lot of hackeration here. I think there's a lot of, all of these things make this a Packlet, not a built-in thing. Every time you tell me there's a hack, I'm going to tell you, then it isn't. I mean, like, why is that not? Why is that? I mean, I don't know what that even means. And that's like, why is that not an entity?
Well, if I play a game at my home, that can't be an entity, right? Not everything can be entity,
Well, I
that
don't know. Maybe
perhaps
there's a
can, but
geolocation. Where's the geolocation? We know the geolocation.
again, not explicitly stored in the file. We have other functionality for people to say, interpret this site and give me a geolocation for that.
Show me the sequence of boards. What's that called?
As sequence of boards, I didn't think about it. It wouldn't be hard to add. We have the moves. We
I want
have
to know
the
how I
starting.
compute the sequence of boards. How do I get the sequence of boards? How do I get the sequence of moves, game states here, for
Just
example?
if you ask for moves.
Okay. Okay. Now, how do I get the sequence of game states?
Yeah.
How do I apply a move to a game state?
We can't. We thought about
not?
actually.
Why not? Why not? I mean, you've got an engine that can do it with all kinds of weird GUIs.
Right,
Why
right,
can't
right,
you
right.
just take a
I'm saying,
move and apply it to a game state?
and you applying it to a game state, you mean exactly what I thought as adding it to a game state, to a chessboard object?
Yes, but and I also want to know, I mean, that adding is also silly because some of these are not compatible. You can't do that move.
Right.
Right.
So
and
a chess
how do I
game
get,
we see.
how do I take AXB5 and I say, and write that out as, knight to, queen 6 or something, whatever the terminology is.
The change of annotations, you mean, or notations?
No, I want to know what's the human readable version where when you see this written out, there's a human readable version that's sort of a whole sentence.
Well, that's a great suggestion. We don't have it now.
Okay,
but if you're getting excited about those things, we can get them added.
No. I'm telling you, this is not well thought out. That's the main thing I'm telling you.
Okay. Not claiming it's well thought of. It's
okay. Look, it's a great Packlet. It's not something for the system yet. I mean, let's get it as a Packlet. Let's plan on having this, it's a magnificent Packlet. But, the thing I'm telling you is this needs some symbolic representation. We can absolutely use this short form just like we do with regexes. See what I'm saying? Did you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
But it needs some symbolic form where I could compute. Like, I want to be able to take this game, I want to be able to plot where the pawn, where a particular piece moved and progressively with time. Right? That's super difficult to do from what you have here. Essentially impossible. See what I'm saying? I might as well go back to the original chess, import format to do that. Am I making sense?
We have the fence that we can extract from the whole sequence of moves, the fen strings. That fen was a format we introduced before. Okay,
so what? I don't care. I mean, it's like, I want to get, give me the, the white queen. I want to see where did the white queen move on the board. Right? I don't think you can tell me that. That's not our kind of computable system. It's just, it's something very different.
You're right. Some query like that.
I know, but that's what it means to be computable. This isn't. It's a, it's a hack into a chess playing program, which is fine, but not what we would normally have in the system. Make sense?
There are still things that are really computable, like getting a score for every step of a game, and then yes, Fischer wins.
Show me in this game, show me the scores as a function of time. Is it scores? What is it?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Doesn't look very good to me.
Okay, well, no, I'm not arguing that this is really complete.
That would be another reasonable thing. If you can give me the score time series, basically, or the list of scores here, right? Then that's another thing I can compute with. As it is right now, what am I doing with this? I mean, like for example, let's say I want to find out which moves involve a bishop. I think that's what a B means. Is that right? Or
Mhm.
we have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, then I'm hacking strings, right?
You are. And one piece of our future proposal was that we could even have things, another symbolic representation in this world could be a move. And a chess move, I think, would make a lot of these queries that you're making
Yeah,
easier
perhaps.
to
Right.
find.
Then the game becomes a list of moves.
Yep.
But I mean, I just don't see, how do I get the sequence of boards corresponding to this game?
I'm just trying to get that, and for some reason I'm failing to do that. Chessboard is supposed to work with a fence string, and I'm mapping that over the list of fence strings, and that doesn't work.
Is a
I
fence
don't know
string a
why.
state? Is it a board state as opposed
That's
to
a
move?
board state, yes.
Okay, so how do I get the fence strings from this?
Just as a property, say fens, F-E-N capital lowercase s.
Whatever.
Something wrong in your prototype. I'm getting a list of strings.
Okay. This is a wonderful packlet. That's where it should be for now. And let's, if we want to develop this towards something which will be part of the system, it's got to have these things that we're describing of having a sort of full explicit symbolic form. Makes sense?
Okay.
Not just strings like this. It's like then when we do tic-tac-toe, we'll invent our own string notation like this, and nobody will ever understand it.
Can you get chess tools Packlet and see if everything starts working in your build?
Packlet or
Yeah, that's it. Just evaluate that and go back to the input field above. Okay, so again.
Okay, fine. All right. Okay, magnificent. Okay, so now what do I do with these?
Okay, now just map chess tools backtick chessboard over that list. Lowercase b.
What's that? I mapped it. What the heck?
I don't
Oh,
know.
no. Sorry. We're waiting. Well, what the heck? Where are the...
So that's a currently proposed typesetting for a chessboard. If you open any of those summary boxes, you see a graphics rendering, but that is also a property of those chessboard objects.
What's
We
the
can
property?
graphics.
Yeah. This is not properly thought through. I'm sorry, it's not properly thought through. Okay, now how would I take these and, for example, how would I superimpose these so I can see, with some opacity? Do you get what I'm saying?
Over time, you want to make a video or just everything on top of each other?
I'm happy with everything on top of each other. So can I just say show?
Yep, that would do it without any opacities.
Well, that's not very useful because it's only showing the last thing. Stack them all up and show the last thing. So how would I get it with opacity? I would say, what could I do? Could I say opacity of one of these?
No,
No, opacity doesn't work with graphics.
You
Probably
have
should,
to
probably
you have to
should.
inject opacity inside of each of the graphics. So if you
Yeah, okay, so it's a huge.
list
By the way, this
opacity,
probably
comma,
should work. This probably should work. This thing that something like that, just like it does with the color. Maybe that's crazy.
probably.
For graphics, I think it's crazy. For image, that could work, and just call set alpha channel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I presumably could do this if I said in this case here. I mean, but you know, the whole point is, the point I'm making is this isn't very computable. This is basically pictures. It's quite nice, but it's not ready. It's not ready. Are you going to try and disagree with that or not?
I guess one meta question is that, do we ever want to have this in the system once
Possibly.
it's ready?
Possibly.
Okay. Do
Possibly.
we want to make that appearance gradual, or do we want everything to be super ready? We've done gradual
It's not
introduction.
ready. It's not ready. It's not the right design. It's not ready.
Okay.
Okay. Do I have to say that any more clearly? There's a million things here that are not thought through, that are not set up so that they can be, you know, so they can interoperate with other things and so on, right? So how do I do the set alpha channel here?
I'm actually just a second looking at image compose and trying to figure out if we can just more easily do that with image compose. It requires some, yeah, no, we can't have a list of opacities for all of them. But set alpha channel, yeah, if you map thread set alpha channel slot comma or a kind of a map index.
Why do I
Oh,
do
you
it
want
like that?
everything. Okay, yeah, just do that.
Okay, and then what do I do? Then I just say image compose.
Or yeah, just image compose should do it. Or image, yeah, no, I realize that image compose requires a background. So maybe the first of,
Well, why aren't I just adding these images? I don't understand. Why am I not just adding these images? Why don't I just say apply plus to %19?
there will be a white image, maybe do mean of %19.
Why would it be a white image?
Because you're adding all of those intensities. It soon goes above 1 when you add images.
Okay,
It
so what
gets
do I do then? So what should I do?
mean instead of plus. Just mean of %19.
Okay. I mean, that's slightly amusing. How do I could say, if I say image adjust. How do I make it darker? Yeah.
Darker. You have a function darker.
Never mind. That's not what I wanted.
I have to tell you, it gets pretty exciting pretty soon.
What?
This whole chess business that we're adding. You're already hooked into it to some extent too. I completely agree it's not ready, but I don't see why it can't be a gradual introduction of this in the system.
But we're not going to
like
put
many
in
other
things that we haven't thought through properly.
Sure. Okay, fine.
I mean, you know, like for example, can I do something where I have, you know, voxels where it's black and white voxels? You see what I'm saying? Stacked here. How would I do that?
I cannot imagine what you're asking for. Sorry.
No. I want to show in each successive thing, I want to show the black army on this side, the white army on this side. And as we go down a stack of pixels, right? I want to show the black army, you know, diffusing out to the other side type thing. Get what I'm saying?
Still no.
No, think about these boards, okay?
Uh-huh.
And think of stacking them in 3D space.
Uh-huh.
Think of turning every black piece to a black voxel, every white piece to a green voxel or something, you know?
Okay, and then slice by slice show them?
Yeah, we're showing each
Yeah.
each board state as a
Kind of
slice.
like he plots cellular automata, like a 2D cellular automata
Mhm.
evolving over time.
Yeah.
This is
so
kind of like that, but
Right.
you know, but so you need to stack them up a little bit. Probably have, I don't know, 15 pixels high per game state
Yeah, right.
or
But I mean,
something.
if you just make it an array plot 3D, if I can just extract from this,
Mm.
okay? I mean, the point is these games are not huge. So there's nothing, you know, storing the thing in association with lists, this and that and the other is not difficult. Right? So there's a dense representation, there's a sparse representation of each one of these things. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
And it should be possible to just get, you know, I mean, I don't know exactly. It requires thinking it through. You know, how do you get, if you have the dense representation, you have something which is just a list, and you have blanks, and you have, you know, a piece, a representation of each piece. That's one thing. Or you can have a sparse representation. We just say the location of each piece and so on, and then, you know, and then you should be able to search for the, you know, the kind of thing I'm talking about, namely, you know, the path of a piece, the stack of, you know, black and white cells, perhaps something about, you know, the set of all possible moves from a given place, you know, these
Mhm.
kinds of things.
That we have from a chessboard. Already you have properties like legal moves or even best moves, which comes from the
Okay, so
engine.
from a given chessboard. So if
Right.
if I take
One of
the,
those chessboard objects.
okay, if I take near the end of the game here, I take this thing and I ask for legal moves. Can I do that?
It might be a today's feature thing. Ask for properties and see if you have it.
Oh,
Okay,
there we
great.
go. That's nice. That's cool. It's quite cool.
And you can ask for best move or best 3 moves.
No, but this allows you to make a multi-way graph.
Exactly.
This whole thing. So
Yep.
so for each of these, how do I apply each of these moves? You can't do that, can you?
That we don't have. Tell me how we can inject
I
it.
don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
right.
know. I'm telling you, this needs an actual look. I don't know. I mean, a chess game is a complete history. A chessboard is an instantaneous state.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why what you're doing isn't like a chessboard. Chess game can be a list of chessboards.
Yep. I actually think chessboards is a property of chess game, and
Okay.
if it's not,
Guys,
it can
guys,
easily
look,
be.
the fundamental problem here is these are lovely, you know, RA6 plus is lovely, but it's not relevant for our language.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's relevant for our language and what could come out here is something which is a representation of a bunch of moves. Each one is a summary box. It could say RA6 plus at the top, but the whole point is it's got some internal symbolic representation.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. I think moves could be added as a symbol.
Yeah.
And
Okay, why don't you work on the Packlet for this? And then
Okay.
let's pick this up again in, you know, in a few months perhaps. And I do think it would be a nice source of example data if we can really make it computable, but this is not that. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And we should just think through, you know, other board games. I don't know, Go, this, that, and the other. I don't know what.
Go would be my next pick. As far as at least complexity and popularity, I think that's next.
Well, tic-tac-toe, you know?
Sure, that's simpler and also
Obviously
computable.
it's simpler, but I mean, I don't know what. And if we have a symbolic representation, I mean, you could even look at that blog post of mine where I have exactly that for like tic-tac-toe and a bunch of these other games.
Right.
yeah, I'm rolling my eyes slightly because we've got so many critical things to do, and it's like, fine, this is amusing, but I wish it was done in a way that was more kind of, rather than just sort of hacking in a chess program here.
I don't think what we have done is a whole lot of hack, but your feedback, I think, is nice. I think we
well,
should do more. We can do more. And that's, if you want to wait on releasing in the system, that's fine by
Yes,
me.
we do.
Sure,
We do.
that's fine.
Okay. All right, let's go back to what else we had to look at today. Where am I going to store this? So we have a section, a whole thing called chess. I think we're going to end up having to do that, because where would it go? What guide page would it go on?
I was thinking about that, not sure. And
Okay.
we're getting bugs for it. I was thinking, do we want a chess category of bugs, or games? I don't know. It all depends how much do we think we want to continue on that.
I think we see how popular the Padlet is, but I think
Sure.
it's nice and fun, and I don't see any problem with that. But
And I think especially our user base is excited about chess, in particular, games, I think, in general.
sure, to some extent. I mean, yes, but I mean, it's like, why would they come to us to play a game of chess unless they can do things which are the kinds of things that we can do that your average, game engine, chess engine that will fit in a phone can't do, right? And the answer is all sorts of interesting visualizations, analysis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, exactly.
Am I making sense? And
That's
that's what we not,
exactly
that's what
how
we don't
this whole
have
project
right here.
started.
Yeah, but we don't have that here. I mean,
Well, just the import of PGNs allowed Ruffo, who was the advocate for this whole thing, import his own games and see how he's improving as he's playing. Well, there is the one number you get from like chess.com that says how good you are in comparison to others, but it doesn't tell you that move in that game was really nice, or you have started making less bad moves in your games. It doesn't give you any other details. And that's why he started this whole project.
Okay. For some reason, this community post is not working anymore. That's really weird. It's really friggin' weird. This was a summer school project, multi-way graphs from minimal chess endgames. That works, but then why? What's going on there? Well, who knows? I mean, a good test case for this would be, well, we could take this and we could try and do some endgame type multi-way graphs, see what they're like. But for that, we got to have things like apply this move, otherwise it can't work. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
Okay, let's go to our other part of our agenda in the time that remains.
Bob is here as well.
Okay, let's go back to what we were talking about before, which I think is much more important. Okay.
Okay.
So, can you describe this?
So we started by talking about how we convert manipulates into videos. And the one thing that we specifically talked about last time, or you mentioned, was how do we make voiceovers for these videos? Cases
right. So
like no caption.
Let's be clear on what we're trying to do here. So, I mean, we might say, I'm going to go to the demonstrations project. Actually needs a facelift for its homepage, but anyway. All right, let's take a random one of these. Okay, and let's say copy to clipboard. This is a lovely mechanism. Okay, there's my manipulate. And I want to go like this. I'm going to say, well, you know, here we're showing more steps. Boom, boom, boom. Now I want to show this with an obtuse triangle. Okay, let's show it with stars. Let me increase the number of steps there. Nice demonstration, by the way. But right, so I want to give some voiceover here, but maybe what I want to do, I just don't know how one produces a video from this. Bob might have a comment about that. In other words, if you say to me, there are these controls, I don't know what the controls look like. We can take a look. Okay, so let's say that I want to script for myself something with a series of I don't know where it is, even steps here, right? I want to say step 1, step 2, step 3, and each one of them is going to last a second or something like this, or half a second or whatever it is. And then I'm going to say, you know, I'm going to show dots, I'm going to show suns, whatever. And how would this normally be done? Bob, if you were making a video of this, what would you do?
So
With voiceover? What's that? Go ahead.
traditionally, we would capture it manually, and then clean up the capture as much as we could with a lot of masking. And then the voiceover would be read and overlaid in like Premiere and then exported. So there's a good amount of steps.
Yeah, okay, but what I'm asking is this, that what we can do here is script the thing with time marks.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't understand how that relates to a voiceover. How does one do that? Because I mean, you know, if you say you've got 1.5 seconds to read these 2 sentences, I don't know if I can do that in 1.5 seconds.
No, not in 1.5 seconds.
No, but I understand. My point is this: if we are writing a script here
Mhm.
that says, this is what I'm trying to understand what we would want to do. It's like, for example, we could have something where somebody, we could have, first of all, synthesized voices are coming.
Mhm.
And, you know, if we say, for example, here, let's say we say speech synthesize. I mean, I think we should assume that the synthesized voices will be here soon enough. You know, and let's say we say speech synthesize. This is a tiling. Let's see more steps. Okay.
So it would need to know the duration, overall duration of the video, and just like a waypoint or time marker to know when to start reading that.
Yeah, but right. But so the thing would be, I would imagine what we would do is we would say, you know, in the script, so to speak,
Mhm.
what we would be doing is we'd be saying, this is the state of the, you know, what we do is something like this. We'd say, but it's a little tricky because, you know, we would say, this is the state. This is the voiceover, but somehow the voiceover, do you get the point I'm making? I mean, you could say, here's a state, static. It's a shot of some kind, right? Then you say yak, yak, yak over that shot, right? Then you change to another shot. You say yak, 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 right? And we could do that here
Mhm.
by saying, these are the collection of settings at this time mark. This is the voiceover that begins at that time mark. Shadi, does that make sense to you? So in other words, we're giving time marks interspersed by voiceovers. We're not saying what those times actually are, 3.2 seconds, whatever. We're just saying you're composing this thing where you're in this state, you read this. After you finish reading that, you go to the next state, so to speak.
So
That's the
Sun
minimal thing.
Sun reads one part of the script, Star, when we get to Star, it does the next part.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, but I mean, so that's more like the slideshow mechanism, right? So, you know, if we go to, what the heck is happening? What on earth? I don't even want to know. Slideshow video. What is going on here?
You had one casing different. You're,
I don't care. I want to know why it's spinning like that.
oh,
Please
sorry,
report that as a bug.
we weren't seeing your spinning.
Yeah, well, right. So please report that as a bug in the prototype build.
Okay.
Okay, so Bob, I don't know if you've used these things. What the heck is it doing? Look at this. What is it doing? Is there some dynamic that's frozen here? Okay, so here we got a slideshow video. Last 5 seconds, it shows those 3 slides. Okay, so what I'd like to know, is this already possible, Shadi? If I want to say, this is the Earth, here's a speedboat, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Can I do that? How would I do that?
You can do that. You could speech synthesize the 3 things. So not within, so these will be 2 separate steps. You speech synthesize the things, you join them, figure out their durations, and then
Okay, that's why we already lost the game. Because what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to say, this is the voiceover for this slide. This is the voiceover for this slide.
That is not possible at the moment, but that is like 2 lines of code.
Okay, fair enough. Great. All right. So now what I want to know is, you know, and this is a question kind of for Bob about how scripts work. Okay. If we've got static slides, I understand you have a voiceover for one slide, you change slides, you have a voiceover for the next slide, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now the question is, what if you have a dynamic thing that's moving from here to there, and as it moves, you want to be saying, you know, and now we increase the number of steps, blah, 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 and you're saying that while this is moving. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a standard way in kind of, you know, movie scripts or whatever, video, you know, to represent that thing? In other words, you know, I've seen in scripts, I've seen, you know, there's a picture of, you know, there's a, you know, the person is on a horse galloping from here to there, and then there's a bunch of dialogue that's written there.
Right, a storyboard.
Yeah, I guess
typically it's a storyboard, or it's just an all text outline script, and that's in traditional editing. That's what informs what goes where.
I understand, but so for our purposes, so you understand what I'm saying, that we would have something where you're going, we've got a series. Guys, walk me through how we're planning to do this. So we've got one thing is waypoints that you can define. Am I making sense? States of the manipulate that we can define. Shadi, are you with me?
Yep.
Yes, and that's bookmarks or time marks that we were looking at
Right,
last.
but how do you go between those time marks? Is it linear interpolation, or is it a jump?
I guess it could be arbitrary, but
yeah. So at the moment it is by default linear interpolation. There is some degree of control that you have over which interpolation, and the plan is to expand that control over which interpolation.
By which interpolation you mean, so 2 bookmarks could have 3 controls that are in different states.
Yeah.
Right. So in other words, X equals 1, Y equals 2, Z equals 3, and then the next one something else, right? Yep. And so clearly there are many paths to get from one XYZ point to another XYZ point.
Correct.
But the point is from the specification language. I thought about that too. You know, if you only want one control to move at a time, which is what you do when you manually manipulate the controls, then the state that you want to interpolate between should only move one control. If you change the setup to move simultaneously several controls, we can do that with interpolation, but you can't manually do it unless you have like 3 hands.
Yeah, right. But I mean, that's what we could do with gamepads, for example. We do have ways to simultaneously change multiple controls.
Yeah,
right.
That should still work, yeah.
Right. So, okay.
But often, okay, like your thing here, or a bunch of that I wrote too, there are more than one. You can kind of see the simplicity of it if you kind of clearly define some setup. Start here, then change this, then change that, and it becomes obvious the thing that you wanted to explain.
I understand. Can I
and
ask
that's
something?
Kind of like an experiment or like a scene or something like that.
Can I ask something about in scripts and things or storyboards or whatever about camera moves and so on? So if you say, I don't know all the terms, dolly to here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, how do you say, like as the person says, there's something amazing here, and you zoom in on the person or whatever. Is there a way of representing the fact that as they start saying that, you're zoomed out, and by the time they've finished saying it, you fully zoomed in? Is there some notation for that or something? Some way of describing that?
I mean, those are the names of the moves that
No, I know. I'm kind of
push
asking
in.
Bob. Is there some way that you would write that? If you in a whatever, I don't know what the right term is, a storyboard or something, to describe that doing that's what the final video is going to look like. Is there a way to describe that?
Right. I mean, you were pretty much saying it right. It's zoom in, zoom out, pan left, pan right, till there's a lot of things will be written in the description. So if it's a storyboard, underneath each cell of like a visual, it would say, give direction on what's happening there. And then it would be up to the discretion of the director as it's being produced to see it and see how it's going to work. I mean, in traditional production.
But I mean, what I'm asking is, if during the time when something is being said, you want a camera to have moved in a particular way, zoomed in, for example, is there a standard way, or does it just say, sort of in two separate threads, it says on, one place it says, zooming in on the pet dragon or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then somebody is saying, the dragon is saying there's something amazing here or whatever, and that it's then up to the director, at that moment to sort of say zoom and finish your zoom, and just say in words, finish your zoom when the dragon has finished talking type thing. Is that what would happen, or is there some more formal notation for that?
That would be more like just specific timestamps to denote, like if you're working on production that's going to be used for a 30-second ad, it would be very specific and narrowed, and it would just be timestamps, just traditional general timestamps.
Okay, but then when the voiceover is given,
mm-hmm.
and the person has 22 seconds
mm-hmm.
to read that, how does that usually work? Does the person read it and then you figure out how the zoom is going to work, or do you have the zoom and then you time stretch or whatever what the person says, or you have a person who's really good at reading it in exactly 22 seconds?
Yeah, a lot of that's pre-production planning. So it could work either way. It could be where you end up time stretching the footage, or it's just that you coordinated it well in advance and were able to make it work.
Okay. All right. So what does that mean for what we're doing here? I mean, recognizing, by the way, that a lot of these kind of video direction type things in the time of LLMs, there are going to be more and more automated ways to deal with this. I mean, I've already seen, there are already sort of proto examples of text to video type stuff, although they're not particularly good yet, I think.
Even in with real camera moves, when you don't do CGI, they use robots to very precisely control the camera path, and those also controls the camera, so zoom and things like that.
Right, but the point that I guess we're making
is similar to what we're proposing here, like defining key positions and then interpolating between those.
Yeah, we're trying to build the simplistic.
But the point that I keep on coming to is, for many of the things that people will want to build as videos from Manipulates, they're going to want voiceovers. And I'm trying to understand how on earth we merge those in.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that you seem to think that, I don't know, maybe Bob has an opinion if that is the majority of cases or not, is that the generation of the video and the voiceover happens at one time. I was under the assumption that a lot of the times the video is generated first and then the voiceover is recorded by looking at the video. Someone enunciating while looking at the video and recording during that to ensure synchronization.
Well, I'm sure that's true. I mean, isn't that what, when movies are scored or whatever, don't they have, the orchestra watching the movie when they're doing things or something?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is this would work with a real person enunciating, but obviously it would not work with automated speech synthesis. So I think
I'm not sure it would work with a real person because, I mean, you know, if you allow yourself 22 seconds for this Zoom and you've written some text, and by golly, that text takes 34 seconds to say, it's not going to work.
No, but I'm assuming like if the text somehow fits those,
But it won't. It won't because nobody's going to know.
Change the text, right?
Nobody's going to know. It's going to look like this. It's going to be, here's what's going to happen. It's going to, and I've seen people do this, right? It's going to move and it's going to go to the endpoint. And the person's going to say, look at it moving. Silence, because it's still moving at the point where they finished saying, look at it moving, right? Silence, silence, silence. 5 seconds later, it's finished moving. Oh, let's see what it did. 3-second pause. See what I'm saying? That's what it's going to be.
With a
like.
design, we can address kind of all of that. Let's say that you wanted to go from state 1 to state 2, and you have some voiceover that you want to incur there.
Yep.
Okay, so you want them to line up somehow. So, for instance, let's say that you use speech synthesis with normal speed and not sort of legalese speed.
Right.
That gives you a time.
Exactly. You know? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I mean, that is one way to do it. Is what I was describing for the slideshow, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as I said, that is easy to do by just computing durations, and I mean, it could be great at that, but that is something that is speech synthesize, compute duration, figure out what the time marks are, then
exactly.
Then do the thing.
And you know, and make sure there's appropriate padding so you're not running the sentences together and all that kind of thing.
That could be a configurable setting as well. But yeah. Yep, that's reasonable.
Right.
But again, I think that if we're looking at manipulate video, still kind of hints at keeping the two aspects separate, like the synthesis and then being able to pass the audios to the generation.
I'm not buying it. I'm not buying this. I just don't think this is right, because I think the durations are, in many cases, as soon as there's an audio track, the durations are going to be determined by the audio.
And also, I mean, I think that we could make a design where it's you know, that manipulate video, if you give sort of time and states, and if you also give another thing that's marked up to be that generates speech or an audio file, whichever you care for.
Exactly.
Then there could be either default that says, you know, that's the time to take plus padding.
Yep.
Or there's something that says, you know, add more.
Right. So one way to do this would be, I think maybe this is exactly what you were saying. You know, there's this time mark. Now, the one thing is it's sort of a fence post thing, because these are the betweens, right? You've got a state. You've got its between, which could be 3 seconds, just the raw number, or it could be this audio file, whatever its duration is.
Yeah.
Right. The thing that's bugging me is this, okay? And maybe I'm being silly about this. I'm trying to understand if it's all about waypoints. Or maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay if the motion is properly parameterized. What I'm worried about is that it's kind of like you have to have finished your. What if you have a piece of audio that is supposed to span 4 waypoints? See what I'm saying? It goes from here to there to there to there, and as it's going around those waypoints, you're giving a little speech.
Yeah, so you're getting closer and closer to my original, which is more like kind of like an orchestral piece where you know, orchestrating a lot of stuff. I think that what we're trying to get to right now is something that's a real easy spec, and then building out from there to be more and more elaborate.
Okay, but let's go through this. I mean, basically what we're saying is, and have we had to address this issue in other places where we have state to state to state, but I mean, it's like in a graph, we have edges and we have vertices, right? Have we had to do that for audio for any purpose of having, you know, a state or video for that matter, a state and then things in between. Didn't we have to do that for tour video?
Yeah.
Yeah. And uses that essentially just takes the approach that we just use the keyframes, just the times rather than just the vertices rather than the edges.
Okay, but the problem is, let me point out, in tour video, we're going to have the exact same issue. Same
Yes.
slideshow video.
So if you
tour-
wanted to annotate that with text, I mean, like text to speech or audio, one could put that in instead of those time steps, right? Then, do you know what I'm saying? The second use case there, whether it's time.
Well, but I don't think so, because it goes in right here. It's the thing that goes between these two. I mean, it seems like it would make more sense, like its vertices and edges listed in a graph, although this is just linear, right? To have a separate list, a third element here, which is the audio, for example, for every one of those. I mean, one possibility would be that you have in this thing, you say tour video, or let's just say slideshow video, it doesn't matter, either of them, right? And then what I do next is to say, comma, you know, audio 1, audio 2. Right, those are the audios for those durations between this and this. And then maybe what we could do, I mean, I'm sure slideshow video has a time step type thing, does it not?
Mm-hmm. That's that second syntax you're looking at.
Yeah, right. So then what we would do.
Oh, slideshow video was slightly different. We looked at it last time.
Okay, but it has this image DT1.
Yes.
There's really durations there because
True.
those are very static, right? Whereas the other ones, you might be rotating and translating. There is action happening.
Yeah, okay.
Slideshow, there's no action happening. It's just flip to the next slide.
But either way, you could say, like we do with sound note and things, at this time marker, start going yak, yak, yak. I mean, by the way, sound note is a model of this.
Yeah.
The sound
I mean,
note
it's kind of, but it's a little bit more elaborate than sound note. It's what I'm saying, because you're trying to synchronize different things.
I know. So that's the problem, is that we could say here, comma, automatic for this DT1, and then it could pick up its time from the duration of such and such an audio. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The problem I see with that is when you want one of the audios to span two of the things you have, or multiple of the things you have in that first argument.
I know. So right. So that's why it's tricky. I mean, and maybe we have to name.
Well, score is
like,
the word that I was looking for.
What's that?
Score. You know, when you write.
Yeah. Right.
And there, things can happen simultaneously or not.
I know, but I don't know the notations. I mean, you know, the all of these music notations, but they tend to be start at this time, go for this time, go for this number of you know, beats or whatever.
Yeah, it's all relative, right? So you can speed up or slow down the whole thing.
Right, but that's
there's
how
never
our sound
absolute
note
time.
stuff works as well. But it doesn't work for voices. We're not going to be able to do that. But I think what we want to do here is, it takes a little bit more thought, but I think what's going to be needed is those times that you're specifying here are really times to audio marks, whatever that, is there a term for that? In other words, I'm reading, hello, this is the Earth. Hello, this is a speedboat. Right? Each of those things, there's some kind of marker at the end of when I've said, hello, this is the Earth type thing. Does that have a name in video production? Bob, anybody?
We just call it a cue.
So what does it mean? What does a cue mean? A cue just means
So
that's a time at which something's going to happen.
Correct.
Okay. So that's what we're talking about here, is we're defining certain cues, and a cue when that cue occurs would be determined by how long the audio took to say. Is that a fair characterization? In other words, you say cue the speedboat or something. And is that the right terminology? I don't even know what that is. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, so then that would mean now it's time to put the speedboat on, and that cue is determined by how long it took to say, here's the Earth. This making sense to people? So I mean, what we would have is a list, not of times, but of cues. And then we would say kind of what determines each cue based on audio. Is that making sense to people? Shadi?
I'm really
Follow.
starting to see a DAW kind of a thing, an interactive thing with multiple tracks, multiple pieces and segments in each of those tracks. And I can't see that immediately in a one line of function. How can we specify that? But overall, I think we are, at least we know what we want to combine. We don't know what kind of a syntax would work for us.
No.
To do the combination.
The syntax is a little bit tricky, and I don't quite see it yet. Okay.
Right.
But I think what we're all saying is there are certain, shots or something which might just be a static slide on the screen. It might be something which is, moving sliders to get from here to there in some trajectory. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there might be a series of shots, and the length of that series of shots will be determined by a piece of audio. So there might be 3 shots, and we say distribute them, have them of equal length in the time it takes to say, hello, welcome to the solar system or something. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And because I really think this idea, maybe I'm wrong, and somebody can correct me, but this idea of time is determined by how things are spoken seems really quite useful for what we're trying to do here.
I mean, I agree. I would not forget, though, the case where we're just generating video and we don't have any audio, and the plan is generate a video through the demonstration project, for example, and then do the post-production and editing in an external software. And that
I understand that, but it's
not,
going to be really difficult. Okay, so
I,
in the external software, we could time warp the video if we needed to, right? So you fill in the voiceover, and then you time warp the video. Is that
we can do it as well.
I know we can do it.
Yeah.
I'm
not talking time warping, just, I don't know, adjusting colors, adding the voiceover, whatever. I'm just saying.
No, you can't add voiceover if the video you recorded took 3 seconds.
Well, I mean, hopefully director
What's that?
Things. Hopefully the director, programmatic director or whatever, would know what they would say, and they would know how long roughly it would take, right? And the planning for the video would be sensible rather than produce something completely unusable.
I don't know what yeah, I think I'm in the process of losing my voice here, which is very odd. I don't know, maybe I got sick here.
What I'm saying is the audio case is useful and interesting and definitely should be discussed. I'm just saying let's not leave the just video generation behind.
No, I agree, but the video generation is with pure time marks.
Yes.
3 seconds to do this and so on.
Okay, perfect. No, that's sounded.
That's what we need. I'm just saying that I think it is super useful to be able to, and we'd have a workflow, by the way, where a human could record, this audio file. It requires 3 audio files, for this thing. Record them, then stick them in here. Now, okay, we need to wrap up. But I think so. There's a little bit of design thinking here about how these cues and the gap type thing is going to work. because it's got to be a spanning thing. It's got to have, and perhaps in the score idea, it's like there are 3 elements here, and maybe the way we do it is we say, just like we do in a table, we say it's this one, and there's audio that starts here, and then it spans this one, for example. Do you get what I'm saying? Span from left type thing.
Right.
Because I don't think, having the audio stop halfway through, no, we don't need to do that. That's too detailed. But we might want it spanning multiple things. So we could have, and much like SoundNote, we could have intrinsic times there. And if the audio, doesn't follow those times, we could time warp the video, so to speak. But in other words, if the Earth was up for 2 seconds and the speedboat was up for 1 second, and it turned out that the audio was 4.2 seconds long, you could time warp those 2 times.
Correct.
So that it fit at 4.2 seconds.
So let me give a partial proposal, not very well thought out or anything, but okay, say that we have a manipulate that has some amount of named bookmarks, and then we have a bunch of audio recordings. What if we have, to indicate the evolution of the video in its soundtrack, just time goes to bookmark and time goes to audio, and these would be placed completely independently. And the duration of the audio would count, it would be maintained. But
I don't understand that. I know, because what you want to do.
Bookmark 1 starts at 0 seconds, audio 1 starts at 0 second. Bookmark 2 starts at 2 seconds, but audio 2 starts at 4 seconds.
No, it won't work. No, because what we need to have is that the duration of audio 1 is what determines the second mark, the second time mark.
Okay, but that doesn't work if we want audio to span overlapping different.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. All you do is in the thing, you'd say, let's say we've got this. We'd say audio 1, audio 2. And then we would say, let's imagine we have another, another picture. Let's put another speedboat there. Okay, then what we would do is we would say audio 1 span from left, let's say, a bad word, audio 2. Okay, what does that mean? That means audio 1 is continuing through this first speedboat.
But what if you want audio 2 to start in the middle between of the time where the speedboat is displayed?
Tough luck. Then you got to do it with time marks. I'm saying you get to your.
I see these both being complemental, potential syntaxes that could go in the same function, right? You could specify it like this, and if not, you do time 1 goes to audio 1, time 2 goes to audio 2.
That's fine.
Okay,
that's fine. But what I'm saying is, I think it's really important to have this kind of just sequence thing.
Okay. So you're proposing a way to closely align the audio to the slides, and if you want to disengage that alignment, you just specify the times.
Yeah, exactly. So in other words, normally it would just be you list the audios and they default to, right?
Yep.
So this would be audio 1 plays through the end of that speedboat. Then it's audio 2 playing through this slide, and audio 3 through this slide. Now, when it comes to the manipulate case, we've got this, vertices and edges problem, right? Because the length, the number of elements here will be 1 less than the number of waypoints. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yep. I mean, unless we hold the last waypoint,
which we shouldn't do.
Expires.
Which we shouldn't do, because people are not always going to want it. If you want to hold it, you put it in there twice.
Yeah. That's fair.
I think this looks pretty good, and I think we should make a function for this, and we should try it out with speech synthesize.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things, right, that need to happen. One, the internals of manipulate need to start supporting all of this. That will be step 0. That is step 0.
Okay, but you can do all this audio stuff with slideshow as well, and with animation video and so on. You could
Yes.
start putting that in,
Okay.
right?
Animation video
Animation video
is just a
doesn't allow
one piece thing at
Slideshow,
this
yeah.
point.
One what?
One piece. It doesn't have multiple pieces.
No, I understand that, but you could put in one audio thing, and the animation could happen not at an absolute time, but at the time that it took you to say yak yak yak.
Sure.
Seems useful to me. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Does Bob want to comment on this whole general approach of synchronizing, of audios and videos, synchronizing and so on? Does this seem useful, or is this like, no, we'd never use that because we'd always have to tweak it by hand?
No, I'm actually interested in trying it out. I think most of the time when I'm producing like a explainer video or something, that I do start with the outline, of course, but then the audio voiceover will get produced, and then, the clip getting adjusted to fit the voiceover. So, I mean, you're on the right track,
Okay,
I
fine.
believe.
At the same time, Carlo mentioned this once. Let me reiterate. A lot of the times, my understanding, same as Carlo's, is that audio addition happens as a separate step. For animation video and slideshow video, it's really easy to say what should be the duration of the whole thing or small pieces of the slideshow video, for instance. And then that duration could be exactly the duration of an audio that is pre-generated. Do we want to smoosh all of these into these functions?
Yes, we do, because we're trying to get something. Okay, look, I'm planning for the time when audio generation, voiceover generation is really good automatically, which I don't think is far away. See what I'm saying?
With the services that we're adding, it is already pretty good. But
okay,
yeah,
so like, for example, if we could train it on one of us, okay, and we could have the Carlo explainer video, right, trained on your voice, for example, that's coming within the year, and it'll be quite good, in my view. And right now we probably have it for some standardized voices, and and that's what and then we can, it becomes very, very fast to generate videos from from demonstrations and so on. That makes sense?
Yep.
I guess
it's
so.
kind of a new world. It's not the world where you have to do video editing every single time you want to produce a video.
Right. Currently, what you're asking is one option in these video generations and a video combine after. What you're proposing that we add is this kind of a second argument in so many functions, some of which already have second, third.
Well, I know. So
fourth
you got to look
arguments.
through it. I don't know how to do that. I'm not solving that problem. You got to look through it to figure out how this works. Maybe it's an option.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay.
Okay.
I need to go to something else. We're going to need to come back on this another time. Can you please think through what it's going to take to put these in? What we did not address here was the name manipulate video, which I don't like at all. And what are some alternatives to the name manipulate video?
If you open the page, I think I put one or two other things.
I mean, it's kind of like tour video, isn't it?
No. My suggestions in the notebook are bad. This is in a sense tour video. Bob, you were suggesting something else in email.
Yeah,
interpolation
I said
video.
Interpolate video.
But they're all interpolate videos. Okay.
Right.
So, and they're all keyframes. All of these things that we are producing are sort of easy specs, a lot of automations, and they all interpolate to varying degrees. And they all keyframe to varying degrees. So we can't.
Right. So tour video is really an image tour video.
Yeah. Or graphics.
And maybe
tour.
we should change it to be image tour video.
It can as well be a video to video where the video is
I
moving
see.
and then we are zooming into a part. But I see your point. It can have a different name.
Well,
for
but
that
I mean,
maneuvering
manipulate. The problem is a manipulate as a noun is really just an us thing. It's very hard to understand.
True.
And we're planning a 2 or 3D video, right? That does the same in 3D.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is, it's more like a controls video or something. Because we do have the term controls that we use in connection with manipulate.
We do.
And really what the thing is doing is it is picking up certain controls and moving them around. I really need to go. I'm sorry. I mean, we're getting that I think that's closer. Controls video seems more useful. Your comments.
I'm thinking the word animate, we do have animation video, but animated video and
I don't think that's right.
something
I
with
think
animate might be.
The whole point is that what this is doing is moving some controls around automatically.
Okay.
Controls animation video or something.
Well, obviously, when I hear controls, I don't think of those, but
I know, but
Right.
when you hear the controls plural, you don't think of control theory necessarily.
Someone had proposed manipulate 2 video. I'm not sure that makes it any better. But
No, it doesn't.
that sounds so kludgy.
I'm the one that I'm liking best right now.
How about exploration video?
Maybe.
And this is, we take and manipulate and we create an exploration.
Yeah, I understand. I like this concept somehow of moving controls, because I think that might even be more general than manipulate. Maybe not. It's because manipulate is the thing that attaches an actual symbol name to these things. I think we should do a little bit more. Okay, let's bring this back in the next few days. Yeah. Okay. All right, we should wrap up here.
Okay.
All right, good stuff, guys. But we're going to need to come back to this one more time here.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.